Hello, I'm Dr. Aaron Kowalski, JDRF CEO, and I want to thank the FDA and the EMA and C-path, all the presenters and moderators for participating in this very important discussion with the Critical Path Institute. My talk is the patient perspective and unmet need in T1D. Now, a little bit about JDRF. We have fought to advance T1D research since our founding 50 years ago and won't stop until we find a cure for T1D. Our vision is a world without T1D. And our mission is improving lives today and tomorrow by accelerating life-changing breakthroughs to cure, prevent, and better treat T1D and its complications. And we've fought type 1 diabetes through science, driving research to advance treatments to cure type 1 diabetes and improve lives. And we've seen significant progress. We've relentlessly pushed forward, bringing in through collaboration researchers from around the world and have seen significant results. I'm proud of the work that JDRF did in the world of artificial pancreas research, accelerating the development of the first generation systems by at least 5 years, work on continuous glucose monitors, advancing beta cell regeneration, and other drugs and therapeutic approaches to delay the onset of type 1 diabetes. In this slide, you'll see our focus on disease-modifying therapies. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease, but unfortunately, it's one of the only autoimmune diseases that does not have therapies that actually modify the disease itself. Its incidence is increasing and globally, and it's present in all populations globally. We know the natural history of type 1 diabetes progression. It's been well characterized, often compared to other autoimmune diseases. But again, despite the advancement in our understanding of the disease and the research that's taken place, it's one of only a handful of autoimmune diseases where there aren't disease-modifying therapies approved. This graph coming from Insula et al. Shows the natural history of the development of the disease in 3 stages, where we know the autoimmunity is present before the onset of hyperglycemia. And this gives us an opportunity, we believe, to intervene before full stage 3 onset type 1 diabetes. This is patient registry data that shows, and I think I often say it's a myth buster, that insulin alone can treat type 1 diabetes. And we know that even in 2021, that managing type 1 diabetes is still very, very difficult. This data from the T1D exchange shows that the bulk of people do not achieve type 1 diabetes glycemic goals as measured by the A1C. And this data is from a population that's enriched for people who go to diabetes clinics. It's likely that if we had better data in the United States, that these outcomes would be even worse. And it highlights a tremendous unmet need. The punchline of this slide: 4 in 5 children do not meet A1C goals, and 2 in 3 adults do not meet A1C goals. Even with the advanced technologies that we have in 2021, we need to do better. I think we also need to highlight the burden of type 1 diabetes, and I'd be remiss if I didn't reflect upon very compelling testimony at the recent teplizumab AdCom meeting, which, from a broad representation of people with type 1 diabetes, myself included, patients, caregivers, clinicians, researchers, spoke about the burden of the disease and the unmet need that exists in type 1. The T1D is not just glycemia. It's not just insulin injections. It's a combination of factors: food, exercise, stress, blood sugar management, insulin management, and the list goes on and on. And yet, as we showed in the last slide, outcomes are still suboptimal. The message is crystal clear. We need to change the course of this disease and improve diabetes outcomes. We know diabetes leads to poor outcomes. complications such as kidney disease, retinopathy and diabetic eye disease, cardiovascular disease. And these are due to increased disease duration. Longer time spent hyperglycemic increases the risk for these terrible complications. We need to do better. We need disease modification. So we need disease modification urgently. Insulin has been around for 100 years, but it is not a cure. Tremendous advancements have happened. The state of diabetes care today shows significant improvements, but still shows the opportunity to drive much further. Let's be honest. As a scientist, it's crystal clear that subcutaneous insulin is not physiologic. The body did not intend insulin to come from the periphery. It intended it to flow into the portal vein and through the liver, and thus maintaining glucose homeostasis with sub-Q insulin is virtually impossible. We know that from the data, and leads to hypoglycemia risk in the short term and a hyperglycemic driven long-term complications. And that is driving poor outcomes. So we need a paradigm shift here. We need new ways to treat type 1 diabetes that address the underlying pathophysiology, not just treatments, but disease modification, so that we can give people with type 1 diabetes and their families better outcomes. This is going to take collaboration, disease modification. I'm proud of the role JDRF plays, but it's not just JDRF. It's a variety of stakeholders. We are at an inflection point here. And in the next 2 days, we're going to hear about what we know about C-peptide, a very strong biomarker for beta cell function, and data supporting its use as a primary endpoint in new onset studies. You're going to hear the voice of the patient and caregivers during tomorrow's patient roundtable. And I would urge you to listen carefully to what's clinically meaningful to them and their families. It's not always just A1C, and that's going to be very clear as you listen. We'll discuss clinical outcomes that are appropriate to support the use of C-peptide and talk about study design. What's possible? What's feasible? How to think about this unique patient population adjusting to an overwhelming and life-changing disease. So the group here today, regulators, FDA, EMA, industry, researchers, academia, funders, patient caregivers, we all need to link arms. We all need to work together. We have an opportunity to address an unmet need that still exists in type 1 diabetes and change the course of the disease, ease disease management, and most importantly, thinking about bringing cures to people with type 1 diabetes. We're going to need to work together. None of us can do this alone. And I can't thank, again, the Critical Path Institute for putting together this incredible opportunity to share these perspectives and get at this amazing opportunity. Thank you.